Well, I'm a traditional therapist. Initially, I worked not in past life regression or in any of the things that I do today. Primarily, I was working in behavior modification and working with people who had problems with sleeping and with depression, this sort of thing. In time, people would come to me and ask, well, since you are working in hypnosis, is it possible that you could take me into a past life? And I was very imperious in those days. I said, no, I don't do those kinds of things. I am terribly sorry, but I'm very traditional in my academic orientation, and you would have to go to somebody else for that kind of thing. So what happened to me was that after a number of years passed, I had a client who came complaining of a pain in his side. He told me that he'd been to many medical doctors, had x-rays, and was told that it was all psychosomatic. It was in his mind, and that if he just forgot about it, it would go away. But it was causing him intense pain. He wasn't sleeping well, and so forth. He asked me if I could possibly find any root causes for this in his childhood, if I could regress him to his childhood. So I did this, and we searched, and I looked through many of the early aspects of his childhood, and I could find him not falling on a sharp object or being involved with knives in any way or anything that would cause this very sharp pain in his side. So finally, in frustration, I said to this individual, who, by the way, went very deep very quickly in hypnosis, which is an important part of what I'm saying, because that to me is a key in reaching into the past life work that I now do and my interlife work. I said, go to the source of your pain. Tell me the first time it happened. And suddenly he was on the battlefields of France in World War I, in a British division at the Battle of the Somme, and was being bayoneted. So while the poor fellow had suddenly regressed into a past life, almost getting ahead of me, and he's lying in the mud dying, I'm so skeptical, because that's my nature, that I'm asking him to describe his division patch for me on his arm. What battle is this, I asked. Where are we? Who are you fighting? Because I'm not satisfied that this is really happening to me. So he described all these things very accurately, and since I am an amateur historian, I knew he was accurate. And so I realized that I'd had my first past life case, and I worked in desensitizing him just as I would have done if he'd have been a 6-year-old child who'd speared himself in the kitchen, for instance, while his mother wasn't there. So from that case, I realized that that past life regression was very real. I was still somewhat skeptical. I did a lot more experimenting, of course, and working with people, and a lot more time passed. And then what happened to me was another case, almost by accident. A lady came to me who complained of loneliness and isolation in society, and she felt that she was not really a part of this world, that she just felt so disoriented with the life that she was living and the people that were around her. She was thinking of suicide. And so again, I worked with this lady as I had done with this man, but not in past life work. We talked about a lot of childhood issues. I put her in hypnosis. We worked a lot with her early life and so forth, and really didn't come up with anything. So like with the man I just spoke about, I asked this lady, go to the source of your loneliness and lack of companionship. And again, she was very somnambulistic. She went very deep very quickly. She was a very good hypnosis subject. And she said, I see them all right now, my companions, they're here in front of me. And I thought, you know, what are we talking about here? Is this a bridge group? Who are these people? And she's staring at my office wall with a glazed look, and she sort of, her eyes are fluttering, and she's saying to me, no, these are my spiritual soulmates, and there are 8 of them, and she described who they are. And I couldn't believe this. There just chills went up and down my spine, that I had actually, I was talking to someone who was talking about a life between lives. And this is an area of which I had no experience and I'd read no books on. There weren't many books even touching on the subject. So from that case, I began to really research the area between lives. And I soon, as my practice, as time went on, my practice, I changed it to working basically with people who want to know about their immortality. People who now come to me who are interested in finding out who they really are, who their soulmates are, what their spirit group is like, why they are here on earth, and so forth. To me, these are the profound questions in life, and the psychological benefits that come from people knowing these points, these issues in their life, empower them in a way that they had not had before. And so that's essentially how I came to work in the area that I do today. You've got two types of people: those that understand hypnosis and the power of hypnosis and realize that it's for real. The AMA, I might add, has accepted hypnosis as a medical tool since 1958, which is rather late considering how long it's been around. But the point I want to make is that people do not hallucinate in hypnosis. The conscious mind is not unconscious. It's very aware of what is going on around at all times around the subject. It is not as if you were in bed asleep at night in a deep delta state. You are in what we call an alpha or theta state. So your conscious mind is able to work and help with information that we're deriving from your subconscious. And so hypnosis really, in terms of whether you want to believe in hypnosis or not, depends on your willingness to accept self-reports as data. And essentially, it's not like physics where we have formulas. In terms of scientific proof, one could argue that's not possible. All I can tell you is that I was a skeptic at first about the whole process of past life regression and working in the life between lives. And what convinced me that it was real and that my patients were telling me everything that had actually happened to them in the past was their consistency of their reports. It didn't matter whether someone came to me who was deeply religious or an atheist or any philosophical persuasion in between. Once I had them in deep hypnosis, they all told me the same thing about the spirit world and about their life between lives. At the moment of death, you rise above your body and you look back at it. Now, there have been a lot of near-death experience reports. There have been books written about near-death experiences, and certainly people who have gone through this have appeared on television and radio and have described to the public in many forums how they felt and what they experienced. But you have to keep in mind that in a near-death experience, we're talking about someone who is clinically dead only for a few minutes, so they wouldn't be around to tell what they experienced. In my case, I have a client in hypnosis for some 3 hours, questioning him about these things. They're also in a relaxed state. They're not undergoing any body trauma. So they're able to tell me in a very clear and forthright way everything that happened to them. Now, let me explain that there are two types of souls. There are the more advanced type and they're the beginner type souls. There are really a few more types, but I'll just talk about these, essentially. The beginner soul, that is, the person who has not lived all that many lives, sometimes has difficulty separating from their body. And not that they're not released at the moment of death, but they hang around. They want to go to their funerals, and we're so vain. You know, these people will describe how they want to find out who's coming to their funeral, who's bringing flowers, how much respect is their body being shown, you know, being cremated or being put into the ground or what have you. So you have that type of soul who's not really ready to leave Earth's astral plane immediately because they're a little disoriented, and also they're kind of reluctant to leave this life in which they've, you know, had so much enjoyment. Then you have the second major type, which are those souls who've been around a long time and they're very experienced. They usually leave very quickly. And so both types, when they look back at their bodies, I want to tell you that there is something that's uppermost on their mind, and that is to comfort the loved ones that are left behind.